golden eagle is generally believed to be a well-known species, and conservation issues are therefore approached with some confidence. We understand the species requirements and can apply this knowledge to our conservation efforts. When we use the word territory, we know what we mean, and management is directed towards these requirements. At this site, during 1998 to 2010, the resident eagles were recorded in 84 1 km squares, but when we look at the area used in each year, we see that no 2 years were the same, that only 12 squares were seen to be used in all years, and that no more than 50% of the tail doe was used in any one year. So would a 3 or 5 year study provide us with a reliable indication of the area used by these eagles? This is important in Scotland, where one of the major threats to the golden eagle is the loss of suitable habitat and the foraging opportunities it supports. In particular, the losses to plantation forestry and wind farms. There is already the long-standing problem of habitat deterioration due to grazing by sheep and Cervus elaphus, and in combination, these reduce or even remove the availability of important food sources such as mountain hare and red grouse. Although environmental impact assessments are designed to minimise the threat posed to golden eagles, a major problem remains the short timescale over which these are undertaken, and it is not unusual for productivity to be used as the most important measure of territory quality. A history of low productivity is seen to be evidence of low viability and low value. While habitat deterioration as a result of grazing is usually a slow, long-term problem, the loss to plantation forest is more rapid, with it taking only 10 to 12 years for land to be transformed from suitable foraging habitat to providing few, if any, food sources. Affected territories may remain occupied for many years, but their productivity is seen to decline. The wind farm industry is very modern, but there has been a rapid increase in the number of wind farms constructed close to and inside occupied golden eagle territories. While they may have only a localised presence, the resultant loss of foraging opportunity happens in a matter of weeks rather than years. But it is assumed that wind farms will have a similar effect on territory viability as do other changes, and so decisions are made on this basis. In 1997, we began work in a territory in which a 46 turbine wind farm would be constructed in 2001. The territory had about average productivity during the 1970s, 1980s, but in 1989 it entered a period in which only one chick was fledged during the 12 years prior to construction of the wind farm. With sheep and Lacubus lacubus, the only major food sources available in open habitat throughout the year, the territory had fewer food sources than are found at more productive sites, and with habitat deterioration due to grazing and foraging habitat lost to forest planting in the 1970s, 1980s and 1990s, the very low productivity seemed to be explainable, and the construction of a wind farm was not seen to be a major cause for concern. It was not going to destroy a productive territory. The territory was thought unlikely to improve given its history, so the wind farm was constructed in a known foraging area, and some turbines were erected less than 3 kilometres from some of the nests. Even so, because the golden eagle is a fully protected species, to neutralise its likely impact on the occupied territory, a habit restoration scheme was implemented that was designed to replicate the area, habitat and live prey population made unavailable by the wind farm. What was not replaced or addressed were resources lost to forest and grazing pressure, so in spite of the habitat management, the territory still had measurable reductions in suitable habitat, foraging opportunity and food sources when compared to the earlier years. As the site history already suggested, a territory of low quality, it was perhaps not surprising that this continued after construction of the wind farm, and that by 2007 only one chick had been fledged in 19 years. When one of the adult eagles was lost from the site in April 2006 and not replaced before the 2007 breeding season, it also seemed likely that the territory had ceased to be attractive to prospecting eagles. This is the expected pattern of events. Loss of habitat equals reduced food availability, which equals reduced quality, low productivity, and the eventual desertion of the site. But in spite of this, the lost bird was replaced naturally after 18 months, and 5 chicks have fledged since that time. This apparently low-quality territory was more productive after the loss of foraging opportunity than when it appeared to be more suitable for golden eagles. The loss and deterioration of habitat did not have the expected simple effect, so as food availability must influence breeding performance, we consider this in more detail. Looking at all potential food sources, their ongoing availability and food source depletion by other species, this last is especially important with carrion, as it is often implied that the entire carcass is available to the eagles, but we found that because of corvids and vulpes vulpes, a carcass could be fully depleted within 10 days, greatly reducing the amount that could be used by the eagles. In this way, we produced minimum biomass estimates that could not be realistically further reduced without excluding food sources known to be used by the eagles. Even so, we could not produce an available biomass figure, either by year or by time of year, below the estimated requirements of a pair of eagles fledging too young. More importantly, we found there to be little difference in availability between years in which no eggs were laid, years in which eggs did not hatch, and years that produced 2 chicks. So we could not link food availability to breeding performance. As it is difficult to imagine the territory having significantly less food in the earlier years, it must have been fully viable throughout the long period of low productivity. So what does this tell us about the site history? With only 1 chick fledged in 19 years, 10 consecutive years of failure, and the delayed replacement of an adult eagle, it would be easy to connect these to the observed loss of habitat and food and see low and declining quality. But a history of repeated failure is meaningless without knowing the reasons for failure. And when we add the confirmed or suspected causes of failure during our years of involvement, we see that none are linked to habitat or food. At least some of the unhatched eggs were fertile. We see unintentional human disturbance, broken eggs, a nest that collapsed during the incubation period, probable disruption during the construction phase, the loss of an adult during incubation, only 1 resident eagle, possible interference by juveniles fledged here previous year and the death of very small chicks in the nest. And the same or similar events, plus weather, could have influenced productivity during the earlier period. And while it may be concluded that the return to breeding success coincided with the arrival of a replacement eagle, other than for 2006 and 2007, there is no evidence to suggest that the individual eagles were the problem. Again, the territory was probably fully viable throughout the period of low productivity. Without the detailed record or the intensity of effort, the poor site history to 2007 meets the predicted expectations. Loss of habitat reduces foraging opportunity, which reduces viability and limits breeding success. And this can be used to justify potentially damaging changes to a territory. Unfortunately, in most similar situations, there is usually little more than a simple record of success or failure, and perhaps only a 3-year period in which to compile a site assessment that may not even accurately identify the territory. Because species management is about using the past to predict the future, it is easy to see how sites could be lost from the population because they are unproductive, not because they are no longer viable. Given its history, the ongoing loss of foraging opportunity and the low availability of certain prey species, the territory outlined here would not be expected to see improved breeding compared to only one during the previous 19 years. This improvement was not expected or predictable under the generalised approach we see used in the management of this species. In conclusion, there are a number of accepted certainties about golden eagle ecology that are used both during our day-to-day involvement with the species and in conservation management. One of these is the idea that breeding performance must be linked to food supply, and that in turn must be linked to habitat. Logically, this must be correct, but the wisdom on relying on such generalisations must be questioned when they are used in potentially damaging situations. Siba.